Okay, so with any training, here's our objective for today, or this hour, is to develop an understanding of the key principles of growth mindset. So even if you've never heard of the word growth mindset before, that's absolutely fine. If you've been an armchair reader and dabbled in it a little bit, or even if you've got a psychology degree, it doesn't matter. Okay, we're going to start and build on it over the hour, and it's about being really reflective in this next session in terms of introducing yourself to the principles of growth mindset. Okay, so we're going to strip it right back. If you were to go and pick up a dictionary and look for the word mindset, this is what you would get. Okay, so a mindset is a set of beliefs or a way of thinking that determines your behavior, your outlook, and your attitude. So your mindset is your persona, it's who you are as an individual. And what I find fascinating is the fact that we know our brain is important in terms of it controlling everything, but actually our mindset controls our brain. So that just shows how powerful it really is. And our mindset is molded as we grow up. So our mindset from birth to 7, we begin to develop a sense of self. Okay, our life experiences and the influences we have around us begin to shape our emotional well-being, and we begin to develop our core belief system in the things that we start to judge ourselves on in terms of whether we have the ability or the skill to do certain things. Then from 8 to 13, we begin to role model those influences around us, and we begin to adopt the attitudes, beliefs, the behaviours and the focuses of parents, siblings, our peer groups, and that sort of thing. Our mindset is still being moulded from the age of 14 up to 21. And that is where we're heavily influenced by our peer groups, but more so I would say in 2020 in terms of social media. So the influences that the people have within that age group at the moment is huge, it's worldwide, okay? And we heavily begin to develop our core belief system, our attitude toward things, our judgments around our social interactions that we have up to the age of 21. Now, our brain physically stops growing in size at the age of 21, but our mindset is malleable, which means it can change and it's flexible. And one thing that this journey has taught me, myself and Gemma started this journey back in 2017, the one thing that it's taught me is at the age of 49, I'm not who I have to be. I've gone through life thinking, oh, Liz, you're good at this, you're good at that, you're not very good at that, you'll never be able to do that. And I've sort of like fixed myself into a journey, a path of a certain journey. And what this journey has recognised in myself is the fact that I don't have to be like that. I've got choices. And that's what we're going to share with you today in terms of the choices. And it says there, learning is limitless. And it absolutely is, once you become aware of your mindset. Okay. Right. So today is very much about valuing you. But once we start unpicking the principles of mindset and the characteristics and traits of a mindset, you might start pinpointing what we're saying with other people. And myself and Gemma did this when we started our journey. We looked at children in our classes, we looked at family members, we looked at our husbands and thought, oh, do you know what? These people really need this because it would really help them develop and grow as individuals. But actually, it's about ourselves at this moment. So we want you to be really reflective on your own mindset, because it's a little bit about walking the walk and talking the talk. So like Gemma said, any questions, pop them in the chat and we'll endeavour to answer those as we go along. Okay. So what we're going to do is we're going to look at a little bit of the research in terms of where myself and Gemma have based our programmes on. Now, it all stems, like I said, back to 2017 when we started looking at this as teachers for our classrooms and started actually thinking for ourselves as adults, this was a really pertinent thing to start to develop. So all our training for educational settings and businesses is based around the research of Carol Dweck. She's a Stanford University psychologist, and she spent 30 plus years being absolutely fascinated in terms of how mindset underpins everything. But what Carol Dweck has done, she's not created mindset. Mindset has always been around. We've all got one, and we always will have. So what she's done is created a platform for it in the world of business, in the world of education, and the world of sport. If you're the type of person that watches Sky Sports at a weekend and you listen to the pundits talking, they constantly talk about players' mindset and coaches' mindset. So what she's done is she's created a platform for a journey and a platform for choice. In her research, she's coined the terms fixed mindset and growth mindset. And what that's enabled people to do, in the likes of myself and Gemma, it's created a starting point for a journey in terms of choice. And we're going to talk about both mindsets throughout this next hour and talk about how you can make that choice, okay, to make the changes to allow yourselves to become the best version of you, okay? So what we're going to do first of all is we're going to look at the traits, the behaviours, the internal dialogues and the thoughts you may have when you have a fixed mindset trigger. Now you'll notice that the logo in the middle has got a lock on it. And the reason why it's got a lock on the brain is because our fixed mindset, when it comes home to roost, is the mindset that holds us back. It's the mindset that's quite judgmental and quite heavily critical of ourselves, okay? So if you can have a look at the thought bubbles, if you're resonating with any of these thought bubbles at the moment, that is fantastic, because the journey starts when we recognize our fixed mindset. We begin to understand how that fixed mindset has held us back. We begin to realize where the triggers have come from in terms of why we avoid challenges, why we give up quickly when something's hard or difficult. Why do we fear other people having success? Why do we have that negative internal dialogue? Why do we fear becoming a failure or looking like a failure? Why do we see feedback as a personal criticism? There'll be certain things as your life experiences and influences from birth to 21, your life experiences and influences will have created certain triggers for you. And it's about recognizing those triggers and thinking about changing them to become more growth. Now, we naturally default to our fixed mindset, okay? It's like our default system because it keeps us safe. It's our comfort zone. But it allows us to stick to what we find easy. So if we do default to our fixed mindset quite regularly without really realizing it, we start to become trapped by the limited beliefs and the bad habits that we form of ourselves, okay? So today is about recognizing our fixed mindset when it comes out to play and taking it on a journey. So it's getting friendly with our fixed, because if we default to our fixed and let that just happen like it always has done, our habitual behaviors, nothing's going to change, okay? So it's about recognizing this. Now you'll notice when we move to developing a growth mindset, it's pretty much the flip, the opposite of what you've just seen. So we've no longer got a lock on the brain, we've now got a plan, because our growth mindset is allowing our brain to develop to be the best version that it can be. So in terms of a fixed mindset, when I started this journey, I avoided challenges, okay, because I feared being judged by other people if I couldn't do them straight away, okay. I felt like my abilities were being questioned. If something was too hard, I'd give up quite quickly. And also I'd have that negative internal dialogue. Oh, Liz, you'll never be able to do that. What's the point of putting the effort in? So I tend to put things off. So I procrastinate because I'm a little bit of a perfectionist. I want things to be done straight away and spot on. So if I don't think I can do that, I back off from it, or I put myself under incredible stress and pressure to get it right first time. This journey has taught me and has allowed me to take that fixed mindset on a journey. And now I have the understanding that with a growth mindset, words like failure, setback, challenge are always perceived as quite a negative. We're in a culture where those words are deemed as quite a negative experience. Actually, they're all opportunities to grow, making mistakes and embracing them and learning from them. Embracing a challenge because you know it's going to be tricky and you're going to learn new skills. Okay, when something's hard, being persevering and sticking at it and developing your resilience. So our growth mindset journey is about taking that fixed and thinking about it a different way. And it opens opportunities and it changes our perception of what learning actually is, what it looks, sounds and feels like. Okay, and it's not all about being Dr. Happy. Myself and Gemma don't wake up in the morning and do somersaults around the bedroom. It isn't anything to do with that. It's about being aware. When an opportunity arises and your fixed mindset automatically comes out to play, hang on a minute, I'm going to do something about this to make change. Okay, so what we did, we want you to have a little think about yourself. So traveling around the Northwest, working in lots of educational settings, but also businesses, these have become some of the most common things that we are seeing in terms of the feedback that we get during our sessions. So have a little bit of a reflection. Do you sometimes lack in self-belief, fear making mistakes, prefer to stay in your comfort zone, see feedback as a personal criticism, seek perfectionism, and sometimes find it difficult to manage emotions, so that quick brain comes out, our emotions come out to play with our fixed mindset. If you're resonating with any of these at the moment, that's fantastic, because these again are all the common traits that we've seen in terms of the fixed mindset triggers. Okay, now in terms of taking these on a journey, it says at the bottom that growth mindset is the foundation for learning, and it absolutely is. No matter what your age, whether you're 4 or 104, you've got a mindset and you are able to develop your abilities. Okay, but it's the mindset you invite to come out will determine the progress that you make. So when you're developing a growth mindset, whatever you build on it will be more powerful. Okay, so what we did when we started to develop our training is we developed what we call the growth mindset continuum, because what we noticed when we started looking at the resources that were out there, and when you start looking at growth mindset, there are ample resources to help you on your journey, but a lot of them have stigmatized the research that Carol Dwecker's done, and she's actually come out and spoken about this, because a lot of the resources have stigmatized mindset in terms of grouping them. So they've almost done fixed versus growth. You've got bad versus good. And we've even got in classrooms Yoda versus Darth Vader. So you've got that separation of mindset. And when you start categorizing people into groups in terms of your fixed and your growth, can you imagine the mindset of someone who does default to their fixed mindset regularly, looking at the characteristics and thinking, gosh, that's me, I'm rubbish, because your mindset will automatically start to think about the negative. And this continuum shows that we all have both mindsets. We flip between the two, so it's really fluid. So in a morning, you could actually wake up quite growth orientated in your attitude to what you're doing that day, be quite engaged and raring to go. And it could be a word that somebody says to you, a look that somebody gives you, an experience driving into work that moves you from being quite growth in your approach to things to actually becoming quite fixed. And it's about recognizing when you move down to your fixed mindset, do you choose to stay there, or are you going to invite yourself to become more growth in terms of, do you know what, I've recognized my fix, I want to change it. One of my biggest fixed triggers was driving. When I was 18, I passed my driving test. The week after, I crashed my dad's car and wrote it off. So that little voice in my head, those little what ifs started to play in my brain. Liz, what if you get behind a wheel and crash again? What if this, what if that? And that small seed of doubt in my core belief system grew and grew to be a fear. So much so that I didn't drive them for 14 years. So it was a challenge that I avoided. It was a challenge that I made excuses not to do. Okay, so in terms of driving, my fixed mindset would come out to play. I went into teaching and realised I had to drive because I couldn't go on public transport with all the things I need for school. So I got in a car, but I put things in place. I want to do it. How am I going to do it? I got myself an automatic car, because then I'm not messing with the gears, because gears was the reason why I crashed. I was looking down because my gear stick got stuck. Okay, so I put things in place. But if anyone said, Liz, can you travel here and it means going on a motorway, I'm straight back at my fixed. What if I miss my exit? What if I crash on a motorway? What if people make me go quicker than I need to? So straight away, my dialogue starts up again. 2017, I started this journey. And last year, I drove from my house in Bury, a 600-mile round trip to Devon on 5 motorways with no sweaty palms, no beating heartbeat, because I've changed my mindset towards driving. I've taken that fear on a journey. Okay, so this just shows at the age of 48, you can change. Okay, and sometimes we default to what we think we are because that's who we are. Okay, so your continuum is in action all the time. It's when you recognize it. That's the important bit. Okay.
Okay, so let's have a look as to one of the reasons why myself and Liz are so passionate about growth mindset. I know Liz has given us loads of really good background information, and hopefully it's got your juices going already, but this is just that kind of cherry on the cake for us. And it's this idea of mental health. And I'm not going to go through all the little bits on here. I'm just going to let you scan over those yourself. And we know that mental health is really at the forefront of everything, everyday life at the moment. Myself and Liz aren't mental health experts at all, but we do have an opinion as to why we think these statistics are on the rise and on the up. One of those things is life is very fast-paced at the moment, isn't it? You know, we run round doing things at 110 miles an hour. Whether that be ferrying the kids to here, there and everywhere, or whether that is in work as well, reaching targets and getting deadlines done. Everything is very, very quick. And I also call it this Amazon effect. So where life has sped up in a fact that if we want something, we get it. So we want a book, we go on Amazon, it arrives the next day. We want something to eat, we go on Just Eat, it arrives in half an hour. Everything in our lives has become very instant. And for some of us, we kind of then forget about actually that slowing down and that idea of a journey and that idea of actually things can be difficult to obtain, whereas it's not just as easy as going on Amazon. There's also the impact of social media, and obviously we know the impact like it has on teenagers, but actually as adults, I think there is still a huge impact of social media upon ourselves now. Me and Liz are constantly on our Facebook page, looking at our posts, thinking, why is no one liking that? Why are people commenting on that one? What is it about that one that's made it do so well and reach so many people? So we're constantly analysing the things that we put out on social media, but we also put out a lot on social media, on our personal status as well. We put our lives on social media for everyone to see, usually just the good bits, but some people do share those uncomfortable and bad bits as well. And it opens us up to a world of opinion and judgment from a wider range of people than we ever had before. And sometimes we can now put something on Twitter and 1 million people will see it, rather than just the close family of before the times of social media. We're very quick to make a judgment. It's very easy to make a judgment when you're sat behind a screen, rather than when you're in person, face to face with someone. And although we live in a society where we think we're quite empathetic towards people, actually sometimes we can be extremely cruel and not empathetic at all. Our opinion is the only opinion, rather than considering other people's opinions may also be true. They're just seeing things from a different way. Okay. And then magazines as well. How many times do you stand at the magazine aisle and see 101 ways to live your best life? So there's 101 things I'm not doing, and we'll rifle through the magazine to see which ones that we need to put into action, because maybe there's 60 of these things that we're not doing. So we're under pressure in terms of successful lives as well, and things that we're not doing, things that we should be doing. And success has turned more materialistic towards us. It's deemed you're successful if you have a nice car, if you have a nice house, if you go on the fancy holidays, if you're swimming in your bathtub of £50 notes, that's deemed as successful. But also that idea of overnight success too. Success can be easy because you can go on Britain's Got Talent, or you can go on the Pop Stars one. It's not Pop Stars anymore. I can't remember what it's called now. Simon Cowell's show. You can go on there and be an overnight success on there. So success can come quickly, but actually real success, what actually is it? Have we lost sight of what it actually is and how we actually achieve it? So mindset plays a huge part in mental health, because although that was a bit of a depressive synopsis of what's going on in our world today, if we do develop our mindset, we can have a positive impact on our mental health. So much so that it can actually prevent mental illness in later life. But also, if we are suffering from the effects of mental illness, it can reduce the symptoms as well. So just to show you that, I wanted to show you this piece of research. So this was Schlieder and Weiss, who were involved with Carol Dweck and her work around mindset. And this was about youth depressive symptoms. And you're probably thinking, well, why are you showing me this? I'm an adult, I'm working in a business, and we will come to that, so stick with me. But this is a piece of research that was conducted with 1,500 students over a period of 6 weeks. Just an hour a week was spent with the mindset intervention, working with students on their mindset, what it is, how to improve it, and that sort of thing. And then the control group. The idea with this is that, yes, there was an intervention. So 6 weeks, an hour a week, working with a group of students, developing their mindset, specific activities to inform them how to do this, the difference between growth, the difference between fix, and all those sorts of things. Okay. Now, the interesting thing about this piece of research is that although it was 6 weeks, from 3 months, 6 months, 9 months later, it's still having an impact on their depressive symptoms. A significant drop to begin with, then it does start to peter out a little bit. Whereas the control group actually sees a rise of depressive symptoms. So it'd be interesting to know what happened at 6 months, whether there was exams or anything like that going on at that moment in time, because there's a rise in depressive symptoms before it starts to drop again slowly. Now, the interesting thing with this is that also what Schlieder and Weiss looked at was not just the students themselves, but the educator, the person that was delivering the messages to the children, or the pupils, I should say, because they were about 17, 18, 19. And the way that they acted, the things that they said, the thoughts they had about these students. They found that actually that was the significance in these results, the way that the educator influenced the students in that group. And that's where it comes into business, because somebody's already mentioned, what do we do about employees who are struggling with change? Okay. And it's around your influence. It's the influence you can have by the things that you say, how you act around these people, and what you think of them, that they take on board and internalize for themselves. But imagine if your staff as well also understood the concept of mindset, that you're all on this journey together, you're all empathetic towards each other, understanding where you're all coming from, seeing things from a different point of view, allowing each other to make mistakes, regularly seeking feedback from each other about how you can improve and not taking it offensively. If you're doing that as a business and you're all doing that, that will impact on the success of your business. But also, if you're doing that every single day, surely there's a lasting effect on mental health as well. And I think this just sums up why mindset is so important, because like Liz said at the beginning, it is a foundation. It impacts on your life, it impacts on your family, it impacts on your business success as well. Don't get me wrong, there are a lot of businesses out there that actually run on a fixed mindset culture. But if you develop a growth mindset culture within your business, it will be a much pleasanter journey and a much easier one to success as well. And doesn't matter how much time you spend on marketing or recruitment or IT systems or product, if your mindset is not in the right place, then you're going to struggle. So getting that right is fundamental in developing your business as well. So we're going to get you thinking now, okay? So we're going to get a bit connected with our own mindset, see if you picked up on the things that Liz and I have just talked about. I'm going to show you some scenarios, okay? So I'll just pop them up on the screen for you so you can see them. So some of the scenarios will be growth mindset. Some of these scenarios will be fixed mindset. Your job is to work out which is which. So if you just bob the number, have a read of it and work out whether that's fixed or whether that's growth, and move on till you've done all 10. When you have done 10, if you can just put a thumbs up or a done in the chat, that would be great. And then we know everybody's up to speed. So we're going to let you get on with that while we have a look at what's going on in the chat. Good luck. We'll see what you come up with. Okay. So what we're going to do is we're going to have a look at the fixed mindset ones. Okay, so the ones that you have put down as fixed, and then obviously you'll know the other ones are growth. This is where I'm going to ask you maybe to step out of your comfort zone a little bit. Okay, but it'll be fine. All right, we'll look at the fixed mindset one. I'll read it out, and then I'm inviting you to take yourself off mute and tell me why. Why have you put that one in fixed? Okay, what are your thoughts around it? All right, and then we can talk about the ideas that you've come up with. Okay, so let's try and walk the walk and talk the talk a little bit in our session now. So developing our growth mindset, moving ourselves, doing something a little bit uncomfortable for some of you, and let's find out what you thought of the fixed ones. So this first one, you and your colleague, you've worked together for some time, you go for the same promotion, you're not chosen, so you are now acting unprofessionally. So why have I popped that into the fixed mindset pile?
You're not growing from the experience. You got that fixed kind of negative take on things.
Yeah, you've taken it really
I don't know if negative's the right word.
Yeah,
That's
I think you've taken it personally, haven't you, Manny? Definitely. You've seen it as a bad thing. Yeah. Anyone want to contribute anything else?
Well, I guess you're taking it really personally, and you see it as something that maybe you see yourself as slightly better than the other person, and
yeah,
you know, ultimately you're feeling, you know, disadvantaged. It should be me. Why you?
Yeah, exactly.
Should be me.
Yeah,
That's not fair.
Yeah, it's not fair. A bit of stamping of the feet, maybe
yeah.
going on. Definitely. Yeah. So this, if you remember when Liz we looked at the bubbles, one of the bubbles around there was about feeling threatened by other people's success.
That's the word. That's the word.
Yeah, and this is a really good example of that, because this person is responding to the success of someone else, but in a fixed mindset way, rather than being inspired by them and finding out, you know, well done, what, you know, I want to learn from you, but taking it very personally from them. Yeah, absolutely. Okay, so we'd be encouraging this person to go and seek some feedback, go and find out, what is it that I'm missing? What do I need to work on next? So that they could go for a promotion the next time it bobs up. Okay, so what about this one? So you've got a new opportunity to work in a department, and you decide to forego the move because you feel the change would be too much. So this
that one's a really clear example of a limiting belief, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, so tell me a little bit more, Phil, if you can.
So in that scenario, that person's focused on the reason why not.
Yeah.
Rather than looking at the benefits or balancing the benefits against the risk.
Yeah, and this suits in really well with the comment that was made a bit earlier about the employees and worrying about change. So this was Hannah, wasn't it? So this kind of fits in with that, because what we do when we're faced with something new, our brain automatically starts going, what if, what if, what if, what if, what if, and it for protection, that's what it does. Our amygdala kicks in and it starts protecting us. But actually, we start creating things in our brain that are not necessarily true. So all those what ifs, do we know they're true? Are they true? We're not going to know unless we go and find out. They're just what ifs. So it's that uncertainty, isn't it? Yeah. And actually that uncomfortable feeling as well, thinking, oh my God, this is something I don't know very well, being asked to do it. It creates a bit of anxiety and a bit of nervousness, but actually that's part of growth. And that is a normal emotion for us to feel. Sometimes we put ourselves up. Oh, sorry, go on, Phil.
No, I looked at that and it reminded me of Dilts's work on the 3 mindsets within the Disney creativity strategy.
Yeah.
And it's like that's clearly the critic mindset, isn't it?
Yeah.
And it's the ability, and I think the reality is, you know, that person is clearly in that, like, being driven by that critic state. Absolutely. Where another person might be led purely by the dreamer state. And I think it's entirely possible for somebody to actually bite off more than they can chew by not employing the realist. But coming back to that strategy, that Dilts's model.
That's a really good point, that this idea that for some people that this might be, they might not even think about it, they might just jump at the opportunity, whereas other people will hold back. And that is the power of mindset. Our mindset works in completely different ways. Absolutely. The thing with this one is, because people do say, yeah, but you know, there might be things going on at home, or it might be, it might be to do with money, or it might be got something going on with the family that is more important. And absolutely, I totally agree with that. But sometimes what ends up happening is we end up using it as a bit of an excuse, and it becomes a bit of a habit to say, no, I'll stick where I am. No, I'm fine where I am. Because, and actually what ends up happening, the opportunity stops knocking eventually.
I mean, in teaching, you must have experienced people who climb the career ladder and jump from one management position that they're terrible at to another. And I just think it's interesting that we're looking at this example from that point, because I think actually, I'm an ex-teacher too. This is the opposite of the issues that we face in a lot of school management systems, in that the people who there's a tendency for people who are overconfident with not enough to back it up to end up being put in these positions.
Yeah, but I would say there that that's down to the management above not recognizing that, and that's part of their role. But did you ever have, Phil, that time where even if you just said move to another year group, I mean, I don't know whether you're secondary or primary, what background you are.
SEND.
Right, okay. So we had an issue, I was primary, we would have an issue with if you were in the juniors, so in year 6, teaching 10 and 11-year-olds, God forbid anyone would ever ask you to go and teach a 6-year-old, because that would set the fear of God into you, okay? And a lot of the time people would stay in that year group, year in, year out, doing the same stuff, over and over again. We haven't got time to go into it today, but what we do in our other courses, Phil, is we look at that idea of a learning and performance cycle and what that should look like. But I totally understand there's been some terrible mistakes in education and in business in terms of people moving up the ladder, and like you say, biting off more than they can chew. But there are other things behind that decision that need to be considered as well, I think, and looked into. But thank you very much for your comment. So a survey here that reveals we need to make some changes to our business, and these changes don't fit in with our business plans, therefore they're not prioritized. Okay, so why is that one gone into fixed?
I think, Gemma, because they're refusing to even look at changing the business at all. So if kind of a survey showed that something needs changing and they're just sticking to whatever they used to.
It's good, this one, isn't it? Because it's a survey to ask people's opinion, and then we go, but I'm not looking at the survey.
Yeah.
It's like it's a tick box exercise, I feel, this one. I need to do a survey. It's the thing to do, but actually, yeah, I'm going to put it to one side. And like you say, people have recognised changes that are needed, but the word prioritised is in there. So it gives us a little bit of sense of hope that maybe they might come back to it eventually. But I get the impression that this person is hoping that their business plan will just go like this. And as we know, especially with COVID, business goes like this now, doesn't it? And we have to adapt and change depending on what our customers need and our customers are wanting. You know, if we would have had this planned in as a face-to-face meeting and not adapted to change, this training would not be going ahead. So we've had to adapt to change in terms of the environment and things that are going on. It's part of what we should be doing. And obviously we do get people that whinge and moan about our businesses and the things that we do. But I think if there's a collective issue that's coming up, it does need addressing and needs considering as well. Thanks, Matt, for your comment.
I think we've all heard the phrase as well. We're not prioritising that at the moment. Usually means we never
brush off, isn't it?
Yeah.
A bit of a brush off. Yeah, the polite way of saying no.
Can I just make one comment there? This is perfect in my world. I work in the NHS, and I work with a lot of clinical staff and managerial staff. I do a lot of training in something we call lean thinking, process engineering in the NHS.
Yeah.
So that's what I do a lot of my training in. And I'm constantly trying to get people to think about the patient view and the customer view.
Yeah.
And that's kind of like, that's over there.
Yeah.
You know, we've got a business plan. We've got to do this bit.
Yeah.
So that's always my challenge. So I'm always arguing that point of view. No, we really, really must think about that survey, that what those people that you call had to say about all of this.
Yeah.
So that little sentence there is my life. That's what I am doing.
Yeah. And I guess they're responding to that, the feedback that they've been given quite personally, perhaps, because those people are working incredibly hard. And I guess that's probably, you know, where they're taking that as well. But you're absolutely right. You know, in a service such as the NHS, empathy is everything, isn't it, as well? It's what drives it, definitely. Okay, it sounds like we could have a really good conversation, Sharon. Definitely.
Many.
Over a virtual coffee. Okay, I think this is the last one, which is about being a successful dancer. Mum's got 2 left feet, so you're not going to even have a go. So why is this one gone into fixed?
That's about confidence, isn't it?
Yeah, there's definitely a bit of lack of confidence here. Anything else?
Limiting beliefs?
Limited beliefs, and actually the limited beliefs of your mum, because it's that where you've got it from. And maybe you experienced this at school, or you know, when you were growing up. I was never good at maths. If a parent said that to you, and how did that impact on you? For some children, it gives them a bit of an excuse. And with a successful dancer, we're comparing ourselves to our mum. And actually, we're born with a set of innate abilities, which we inherit from our parents. But actually, our success in a skill comes down to hard work and practice. It's what we put into it. So just because our parent or deems themselves not to be a successful dancer or a good dancer, it doesn't mean that we can't aspire and be that person with hard work and practice too. Okay. And also, you know, Do we have to take it so seriously? If we're just starting out at being dancing, we're not expecting strictly on the first go, are we? Go and have a bit of fun with it. Maybe even take mum and have a giggle. Who knows? Okay. Oh, there is the last one. Sorry, the footballer. So the trophies, very successful, very talented football player. There's extra training, but actually, you know what? I'm not going to attend this training because I've already got the skills. So why has that gone into fixed?
Because that person's decided that just because they're the best, that they can't get better.
Yeah, absolutely. They think they're at the peak, aren't they? That they've made it. So what's the point? But actually, football's a really good example of growth mindset, because what we see on the telly is the result of the hard work and the effort that they've put in during the week when they've gone to training sessions. And it's those training sessions where they're working on their skills, developing their teamwork, regardless of whether they're League One or Premiership or wherever they are. That's what they do. And their aim is to improve their game during the week before the performance at the weekend. And, thinking about your players like your Messi and Aguero, even when they're injured, they still go to training. They're very talented football players, but as well as being good in this area, they've also got things to share. And that's what growth mindset's all about, is not keeping skills and ideas to yourself, but actually sharing with the people around you, which again is fundamental in business. Some people want to shine on their own, but it's so much better if you can shine as a team and as a unit together. Share those skills, because if you're improving your employees and the people around you, then that's better for your business rather than just one person as well. So it's a really good example here. I'm guessing, because a few of you just went done, 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 you found that pretty simple to do. But the thing with this is, we do usually find that people go, oh yeah, it's pretty easy to sort fixed and growth. But what the difficult part is beginning to recognize it more in yourself, recognizing those moments of fixed in yourself, and what are you going to do about it? Okay, are you going to make the change, or are you just going to stay as you are?
Okay, so what we wanted to introduce to you to wrap things up is our circle of control. Okay, now often our fixed mindset comes out to play when we start to think about the things within our circle of control that we cannot change. Okay, so on the screen here we'll have 3 circles. The outer circle is what we refer to as the circle of concern. Okay, and a lot of the things within this circle are things that very often we spend a lot of our energy and a lot of our time thinking about, pondering over, worrying about, when actually we have no control over these things. And Gemma mentioned earlier that as a business, we reflect on our social media and our platforms and the things people think about us and that sort of. We have no control over what people post or what people say, but what we can do is think about what we can control. Okay, so in terms of a business, in terms of your employees, if their energies are going in these areas here, it's about the journey to developing a growth mindset, takes you away from these bits and pulls you in to become more focused and central. Okay, now circle 2 is what we refer to as the circle of influence. Again, you have no control over these things in terms of your children's future or your children's behavior or actions or attitude, other people's thoughts, how much your partner loves you and that sort of thing. But what you can do is you can influence this circle. And that is what developing a growth mindset is about. Somebody put in the chat earlier about other people's actions and behaviors. And it's about, if you take control of the things in circle 1, so that's your thoughts, your words, your actions and reactions, your decisions and choices, your mindset is your choice. Every day you will be impacting on the mindset of the people around you that you come into contact with. And you will either be magnifying a fixed mindset, or developing a growth mindset in that person. Sometimes we do it without even realizing. When you're on a journey of growth mindset, you become more aware of other people's mindset. You think more empathetically towards them, you're more compassionate, and you think about people's backstories. What influences and experiences have they had that are making them trigger against the things that you want to develop? Okay, so you begin to understand where they may be coming from so that you can then support them. So it's about understanding your own mindset to then understand other people's, to then become an influencer. And then as they become influencers, you then might be able to move out into that bigger world in section 3, but it has to start with you first, and then drip feeding it through. But it's very much taking a focus. Every day I use my circle of control. Whenever I'm feeling stressed or anxious or nervous, what is in this situation I can control? Let's shelf the stuff I can't control and focus on what I can with a positive energy in terms of developing my abilities. Okay, so we think this is something that we again go further into detail with, but we wanted to think, just drip feed that food for thought for you in terms of what areas do you think you are focusing on in terms of the control. Okay, so what's your number one takeaway from today's session? If you've never heard of growth mindset before, have we sown a seed of interest there? Has it made you reflect in terms of, oh gosh, I didn't realise I had a choice and that journey is possible? If you know more about it, has there been a different angle in terms of what you've experienced today? So what's got you thinking? So just pop something in the chat in terms of your one takeaway from today, even if it's recognising you had 2 mindsets and you didn't know that this morning. Okay, anything at all? What's something that's resonated with you? Right, yeah, Sharon, using that is that the circle of control, using that in coaching others? Absolutely. And we did as teachers, we saw it as helping the children, where actually we need to be the role models for those children. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, circle of concern. Yes. I want to do this as a family, would love to instill this. Yeah, I actually resonated with my son with this. He's 22, and I could see a lot of the fixed mindset traits in him, but realised that I was potentially triggering some of those fixed mindsets. So yeah, again, it's about understanding your own mindset as an influencer. A great reminder that my mindset is my choice, absolutely. Slipping into a fixed mindset, stop and thinking what's happening, what changes can I make? Absolutely, Tony, yeah. And it is a journey. It's not something that's going to happen overnight. We've been doing this for 3 years and we're on a journey every day. I've had 49 years of my mindset thinking a certain way. So rewiring my brain to think differently is going to take time. Okay, so in terms of that, but it is a fruitful journey, I would guarantee. Trying to get our children to see. So we've got this lovely quote here in terms of mindset. The path to a growth mindset is a journey, not a proclamation. Instead of using the company as a vehicle for your greatness, use it as an engine of growth for you, your employees, and the company as a whole. So this to me is a real growth mindset quote in terms of a collaborative approach to develop everybody to become the best version of themselves. Whereas when we look at fixed and growth mindset companies, there very much is a hierarchy of leveling within a company, which can be a fixed mindset trigger for many. Okay, but that's another story. We've had an hour, that's another story for maybe in the future.
But thank you very much for your time today. It's been lovely working with you all. I hope you found it useful. And we'll let you crack on and enjoy the rest of your day. So thank you very much.